Marty Byrde is a Chicago-based financial advisor along with partner Bruce. Together they secretly launder money for a Mexican drug cartel. They are contacted by Dell, who finds out that Bruce has been skimming money up to around $8 million, resulting in his death. Rambling to save his life, Marty convinces Dell that the Ozarks are potentially a good location for money laundering. Dell gives him 3 months to move to the Ozarks and launder the $8 million Bruce stole. Marty's wife, Wendy, knew about the laundering and was cheating on her husband. However, the cartel took care of this problem. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Big Screen Movies for my initial thoughts and reviews on the latest movies and TV shows. If you want more in-depth thoughts, random clips, and sneak previews for my latest videos, check out my TikTok. The links are in the description. The family begin to settle in as Marty scouts for local business to launder the cartel's money, and Wendy looks for a permanent residence. Their kids, Charlotte and Jonah, allow for part of the $8 million to be stolen by the Langmores. Marty tracks them down and retrieves the cash. Meanwhile, Bruce's remains are found, with the FBI suspicious of Marty's sudden move recent to this discovery. Wendy tells the kids about their father's job and why they had to move, with Marty beginning business with the Blue Cat Lodge and owner Rachel. Ruth Langmore persuades Marty to hire her at the lodge, with the plan being to convince him to teach her how to launder money, intending to eventually kill him and steal the full $8 million. Agents Petty and Evans track down the Byrdes to the Ozarks, with Wendy starting her new job as a realtor, intending to launder money by flipping houses. Wanting the local strip club lickety splits, Marty hires Ruth to help steal the deed from the safe within, allowing him to take control after being initially turned down by the owner Bobby Dean. It's revealed that Bobby was already laundering money for the Snells, local heroin dealers. They have Bobby killed to keep the secret, dumping the body at the Byrdes to send a message. Marty has a new idea for laundering money after stumbling upon Mason Young preaching upon his boat. He'll fund the construction of a church. Roy becomes interested in Russ, becoming romantically involved. Meanwhile, Marty offers Ruth more responsibility as she visits her incarcerated father, who tells her to learn more about Marty's operation. The Snells inform Marty of their operation and that they use the church on the lake to distribute heroin, warning him to stop construction. Ruth and Russ work together to attempt to kill Marty, but Russ informs Roy, who intercepts. Rachel calls Marty after finding irregularities in the Blue Cat books. Mason didn't halt construction, putting Marty's life in danger. Both the Snells and Marty rat each other out to Mason, who agrees to continue preaching on the lake. Roy convinces Russ to start his own business with Marty as an investor. Meanwhile, Charlotte struggles with her depression since moving to the Ozarks. Back in 2007, Wendy was pregnant with a third child, but was unfortunately lost in a car accident. Dell approaches Marty and Bruce, and with Wendy's approval, they agree to work for him, with his previous financial advisor being killed for skimming and being an informant to Roy at the FBI. Marty and Wendy convince mother of Sam, a realtor, to invest $900,000 in an investment fund, allowing him to complete the $8 million laundering agreement in time. The cartel immediately sends over a further $50 million, the first of the $500 Marty had guaranteed he could manage over 5 years. Upon the death of Sam's mother, the Byrdes buy the funeral home. Meanwhile, Roy reveals to Russ their relationship was a ploy, trying to get him to get a confession out of Ruth. Instead, Russ and his brother intend to kill Marty and steal the money, going on the run. With Ruth catching on, she kills her uncles. With Mason not able to preach without feeling the guilt, he refuses to do so on the lake. He goes home to find his wife Grace killed, but their newborn child safe. Deeming the situation unsafe, Marty wants the family to leave, but are stopped by Garcia, a cartel member. Buddy, the terminally ill residence owner, holds Garcia at gunpoint as the family gets away. Rachel finds some of the $50 million stash, taking it and skipping town herself. Marty meanwhile comes up with a plan to get the cartel and Snells to work together. The plan is for the cartel to distribute Snell heroin while the Snells allow a casino on their property to launder cartel money. Dell is killed, however, after distributing some offensive comments towards them. Marty wants his family to stay away, but they refuse, wanting to face the future consequences as a family. If this video isn't your cup of tea, check out this recap for Afterlife Seasons 1 and 2, or maybe you haven't seen Cobra Kai Season 4 just yet. Try something different with this video about the unmade Amazing Spider-Man 3. With the Snells getting rid of Dell's body, Helen Pierce, the cartel's attorney, pays a visit to discuss the casino deal. Marty and Wendy visit Charles Wilkes, a political donor, convincing him to back the legislation to allow for the casino to be built. Helen reveals she knows about Dell's murder, asking for a price to be paid, with Jacob Snell killing Ash, leaving Darlene broken. Wendy attempts to charm politicians and senators into ensuring the casino construction goes ahead, resorting to blackmail. Meanwhile, Cade is released, desperate to rob or kill Marty. Marty makes a deal with the Kansas City Mafia, ensuring the casino construction will be unionized, hiring Mafia members only. The casino bill passes, with Senator Blake committing suicide. Jonah uses some of the money he stole from the $50 million to open a bank account with his fake name, using it to launder money from offshore accounts. Rachel attempts to obtain evidence on Marty, with Roy manipulating her, getting her to go undercover and help him. Frustrated with Rachel's lack of evidence, Roy threatens her. Upon speaking with Ruth, she finds out that Marty does some of his laundering at home, allowing Roy and the FBI to get a search warrant. All the FBI find is Charlotte's stolen $10,000 cartel cash. Helen and the cartel appear to ensure nothing gets out, with Roy using this opportunity to make it look like Ruth is an informant, making Helen doubt whether she was to be trusted. Helen insists the Snells burn their opium farm, but they refuse. Wendy distracts Darlene whilst Buddy burns it down anyway. Buddy unfortunately passes on the ride home. Despite the lack of opium, Roy discovers bones under the burnt evidence. It's Mason's wife. The Snells and Byrdes manage to swap the bones out for some of the Snells' buried ancestors, claiming the FBI had disrupted their family's burial ground. Rachel, meanwhile, stops Marty from confessing anything by kissing him, revealing the wire she was wearing. Mason has been preaching on the streets with his newborn Zeke, but when social services takes his child, he kidnaps Wendy, wanting Marty's help to have his child returned to him. With the help of Charles Wilkes, who cares about Wendy, they return Zeke to Mason. However, he is shot by Marty as he attempts to kill Wendy anyway. They cremate the body, taking Zeke home as his supposed foster child. Furious with the changes the cartel have enforced on her business, Darlene laces a batch of heroin with fentanyl, causing many to overdose, including that of Rachel. With Charles wanting to back out of supporting the casino, Wendy uses Jonah's fake account to make a sizable donation to his charity, blackmailing him to continue the support. Wanting to save Rachel, Marty has drugs supplied to Roy's mum, who has struggled with drugs in the past. He returns home to care for her, allowing Rachel to leave for addiction treatment. Charlotte hires a lawyer wanting to be emancipated. Wanting to keep the peace, Jacob attempts to kill Darlene, but she beats him to it, poisoning his coffee. The casino is approved, with Marty planning on leaving the whole operation to Ruth, whilst he and his family run away to Australia. Ruth convinces Wyatt, her cousin, to go to college, wanting him to have a future. Before being transferred back to Chicago, Roy is murdered by Cade after insulting his daughter. The Byrdes are forced to give Zeke up as Darlene shaves Jonah's head as a warning. Needing to flee, Cade tries to get some money out of his daughter by threatening to tell Wyatt she was the one that killed Russ and Boyd. After he attacks Charlotte wanting money, Wendy spends $500,000 to have him ambushed and killed. The casino is finally opened, with Helen returning to Chicago and the Byrdes sticking around. However, the Kansas City mob bomb Marty's office as a warning. 6 months pass and business is good, but Marty is hesitant to begin laundering until he is sure the FBI hasn't infiltrated his staff. Charlotte decides to stay with the family as long as Marty and Wendy get couples therapy. Wendy suggests the cartel expand into legitimate businesses, but Marty thinks the plan is too risky. The boss, Navarro, is intrigued however, meeting with Wendy in person to hear her pitch. Wyatt, meanwhile, gets caught breaking into vacant homes, with Darlene hiring him on the farm and offering him a place to stay. The Byrdes get their own house guest, with Wendy's brother, Ben, who has bipolar disorder, staying with them temporarily. Helen moves to the Ozarks for the summer with her daughter, Erin, to help with the expansion. Marty and Wendy go back and forth trying to convince Carl and Anita to sell Big Muddy Casino, with them eventually selling after Wendy rigs the slot machines for a constant payout. However, owning 2 casinos triggers an FBI audit, and Wendy closes the Big Muddy Casino for renovations, halting the laundering once again. Anita refuses to sell their hotel as well, but is accidentally killed by Carl. With everything going her way, Wendy provokes Darlene, resulting in her lashing out, giving Wendy cause for a custody hearing for Zeke. Meanwhile, FBI agent Maya Miller offers Marty a deal enabling him to work for them after 18 months of incarceration, in which he accepts after intercepting a call between his wife and Navarro about acquiring the hotel. The cartel sees Marty. He is taken to Navarro's home in Mexico, being tortured for days as they test whether the casino can be run without him. However, Ruth panics when one of their accounts is frozen due to suspicious activity, with Marty proving himself by dealing with the problem. Wyatt defends Darlene at the court hearing, resulting in them keeping Zeke as they begin their odd relationship and restart the heroin business. Navarro instructs Wendy and Marty to buy a Kentucky horse farm. It houses his rival's prize stallion, in which he neuters. During a heated therapy session, Marty and Wendy reveal their business to the therapist, having to pay for her silence. Ben and Ruth get together, but with him being unable to perform, Ben stops taking his meds. Ben and Jonah tell Ruth to a routine cash exchange, using a drone to warn her of incoming vehicles. They take out the mobsters in retaliation for the horse mutilation. One of the victims was Tommy, an informant, putting suspicion on Marty. Ruth is blamed for the attack and assaulted by Frank Jr. Marty reacts by cutting ties with the KC mob. Helen decides that the therapist knows too much and has her killed. Marty continues to try and bait Maya with information, but she refuses to accept it. Meanwhile, Wendy establishes a charity organization using her connections to send the info to Maya's bosses, causing her demotion. Ben is spiraling, getting drunk and attacking people, including Marty at the charity launch party, with trigger-happy Helen forcing them to commit Ben to the state mental hospital. He is soon released thanks to Darlene, who still has some influence with the sheriff. He immediately upon release goes to Helen and Erin. Upon finding out the truth, Erin returns to Chicago, with Ruth and the Byrdes trying to hide Ben from Helen and the cartel. Realizing he's a lost cause and a threat to the family, Wendy abandons him, leaving him to be killed. Helen wishes to take over the Byrdes' business, but to prove their worth, Marty takes the drone images caught of the cartel hit to Maya, resulting in the arrests of the mob's members. Ruth stops working for Marty after the deaths of both Ben and Cade, with Darlene avenging her by shooting Frank Jr. in the genitals, but offering peace by bringing Frank Sr. into her drugs business. Maya reveals to Marty that Helen has a copy of his confession given to her, with him and his wife and Helen being called down to Mexico. Helen, surprisingly, is killed by Navarro, with Marty and Wendy continuing on with their business.